Welcome everyone to my presentation, recorded at University of Arizona, where I am currently serving as a postdoctoral research associate. Today, we will journey together to explore a question as to whether Dr. Andrew Foster is, as some persons have suggested, the father of sign language in Africa. For those of you who may not know, Foster served approximately 30 years across much of post-colonial Africa to found amongst the first 32 schools for the deaf. Starting with Ghana in 1957, he was able to do his work through an early and innovative partnership with Ghanaians, both deaf and hearing, to pilot his first mission school for the deaf in Accra, Ghana. From there, he and his West African colleagues expanded this collaboration to extend his mission school model across 12 more post-colonial African nations, from West to Central Africa and eventually into East Africa. Foster's work, seen here on this map, he was able to establish 32 schools for the deaf in total in 13 post-colonial African nations. Perhaps understandably, this earned him the honorific of Father of Deaf Education in Africa. The stars represent all of the 32 mission schools that he founded. But more about Foster. Who was he? He was an African American. He was post-lingually deaf. He was a Gallaudet University alumni. He was a missionary educator. He was a sign language advocate. He was known, as said, the father of deaf education in Africa, and some therefore have also called him the father of sign language, specifically that has been said of his work in Ghana. Foster worked at the intersections of deafness, education, religion, and language. This brings us to what Foster himself referred to as the language of the signs. In Foster's words, language of the signs means what it says: conventional signs for objects and actions. Our friends at Ghana National Association of the Deaf further suggested that Foster used American Sign Language ASL to teach the many deaf people he found in Ghana. Foster often launched the rollout of ASL with the one-handed manual fingerspelling alphabet, which he printed and distributed in countries where he served. Here we can see an example of some of the cards which he printed and shared in the places he worked. The one on the left is from Accra, Ghana. Foster's use of sign language in Ghana and other African countries is well documented with artifacts and interviews, including this illustration which depicts him presenting the manual alphabet to the deaf in Ghana, where he served between 1957 and 1965. He next scaled his use of the manual fingerspelling alphabet from Ghana into neighboring Nigeria from approximately 1960 onward. So we can see here his students showing us the manual alphabet for a ball, spelling it out. A-B-A-L-L, ball. And from Nigeria, Foster expanded his work and use of sign language into Central Africa, including the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where we can see the use of the fingerspelling alphabet with the letter T. Now we will notice that this is a little bit different. Might be somewhat different than the T which is used in the US, but it's looking very similar. He spread ASL by training deaf and hearing Africans in it, and they in turn taught their deaf students using the language. That's how it spread. Here in the lower left-hand picture, we can see Foster observing one of his teachers modeling use of sign language for the deaf students. This is, in brief, how Foster introduced ASL into all 32 of his mission schools for the deaf across 13 post-colonial African nations. Foster used and encouraged the use of ASL at all of those schools. Again, we can see visual examples of this. Foster standing and signing, and then his students in Burkina Faso using the manual fingerspelling alphabet. This linguistic map provided by Professor Kamei, who is a linguist who studied Foster's work at the intersections of education and language, illustrates why Foster might be referred to as the father of sign language in Africa. What do Foster's own writings reveal about his use of ASL in Africa? Foster early on said, "I came across an address book of World Schools for the Deaf, which listed only 12 in all of Africa. I was really moved by this vast educational and spiritual void." Foster speaks of this void and seems to extend that into a feeling that there's a linguistic void too, as he often in his literature referred to deaf Africans as having blank minds. In his literature, he said, encouraging results show that students who came to us with blank minds, so to say, now express themselves simply in short hymns and prayers in sign language. And from what we know, that was ASL. Lastly, Foster inaccurately reported that deaf Ghanaians were a people lacking a language, and we will see why this was not accurate. At this time, though, putting this together all begs the question, is Foster the father of sign language in Africa? The short answer to this is it depends on who you ask. Here we see Foster pictured, upper and lower. According to a number of deaf West Africans, the answer to that question, is Foster the father of sign language in Africa, is yes. According to our friends at Ghana National Association of the Deaf, all of the 14 schools for the deaf in Ghana use the same language begun by the father of sign language in Ghana, Dr. Andrew Foster. According to Dr. Peter Mpa, Foster introduced sign language to Africa. But is this really true? Not everyone was a fan of the linguistic component of Foster's work, including deaf and African scholars who pushed back, one of whom was Professor George Conling at University of Ghana, who said that there is a village called Adamarobe, and it has a high concentration of deaf people. They have been using their own sign language long before Foster came to Ghana. Another critique came from a deaf Briton who said nothing is more disrespectful than to force African deaf schools to use ASL. I appreciate the opportunity to briefly critique Foster's work at the intersections of deafness, education, and language with all of you today. As to whether this made Foster the father of sign language in Africa remains an open and at times complicated question, which is yours to answer. I want to at this time recognize and thank the U.S. Fulbright program, which generously supported and sponsored this work that I've shared with you in this presentation today. I would be remiss not to as well recognize close collaboration which happened with colleagues at University of Ghana's Department of Linguistics, as well as Ghana National Association for the Deaf, and last but not least, the University of Arizona's Freedom Center, where I currently serve as a postdoctoral researcher.